Sorry, Nabil, you'll get used to it. Kawhi watch day 6, still waiting on the decision from Kawhi Leonard, fresh off winning a championship with Toronto. He's taking his time deciding where he wants to take his talents. The general consensus is he'll either remain the King of Canada or go home to Southern California. We will see. Our NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski joining us now. All right, all three of these teams want Kawhi Leonard, my friend. But why do the Lakers need him to make a decision sooner rather than later?
Well, it'll help them to build out the rest of their roster. They have over $30 million in cap space, and they can break that off among several players. But players like Danny Green, who, you know, even though he's played with Kawhi Leonard in two different places, won titles with him with the Spurs and the Raptors, if Kawhi goes to the Lakers, well, Danny Green probably goes to the Mavericks.
He's not going with him.
No, because they don't have the money to pay him what he could get at the market.
Got you.
He'll go in the opposite direction of Kawhi Leonard, not because he doesn't want to be with him anymore, because that's where the cap space is. If Kawhi goes anywhere else, then Danny Green very likely goes into the Lakers cap space.
Wow. So take a listen to Danny Green talking about the waiting game, since we just went over the impact that all this is having on Green.
I'm worried also. All those things come across the board. If I miss out on opportunities to get the short of the stick, which would suck. So I'm hoping that, you know, he makes the decision soon. We have a couple things in place that's lined up. We're going to see how much longer these games will wait. I don't think much longer than another day or so. So, and then, you know, hopefully a good decision comes out of it, not just for him, but for me.
I know that's his boy. Kawhi's his boy, but he sounds like he really wishes his boy would make a decision.
Well, but what it really tells you, too, Jay, is this, that one of his closest friends in the league doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
Because Danny Green could move with knowledge of where he's headed. And the fact that he hasn't makes you wonder whether anybody really knows what Kawhi's going to do here.
I'm on that side. I don't think anyone knows, and we will know when we all know, really. As for Danny Green, 10-year vet, career 42% shooter from 3, so someone's going to get him a good player. Woj, thank you so much. As news breaks, he will figure it out.
Kawhi right now. Who is the best basketball player on earth?
Bit of a Game of Thrones feel here as our Kawhi watch continues. Raptors, Lakers, and Clippers all waiting for the same result that we are. And so is NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski back with us this morning. Lakers obviously hope that Kawhi chooses them, but there's a time element here. Why are they especially hopeful that decision comes in the next 24 hours?
Well, you know, other players who they might want to sign as free agents into their cap space, you know, can keep coming off the board. You know, Danny Green, Marcus Morris. You know, Dallas has space. They have space. I mean, Danny Green's an interesting player. He's won championships with Kawhi in San Antonio and Toronto, and he's put off his decision waiting for Kawhi, not because he's going to get to play with him again, because wherever Kawhi goes, he goes where the cap space is elsewhere. If Kawhi goes to L.A., to the Clippers, to the Lakers, he probably goes to the Mavericks. If Kawhi goes anywhere else, well, then Danny Green probably goes right into that Laker cap space.
Speaking of Danny Green, like he's just like us, kind of also waiting, but it means more for him. Here's what he had to say about Kawhi's waiting game decision. Take a listen.
I'm worried also. All those things come across the board. If I miss out on opportunities to get the short of the stick, which would suck. So I'm hoping that, you know, he makes the decision soon. We have a couple things in place that's lined up. We're going to see how much longer these games will wait. I don't think much longer than another day or so. So, and then, you know, hopefully a good decision comes out of it, not just for him, but for me.
You heard him right there. So his decision having a major impact on where he goes. Well, any more you can tell us on that?
Well, I mean, Kawhi Leonard has met with all three teams now, and he's got 3 very different decisions among the 2 LA teams, the Raptors team. And listen, I get there's frustration with it. Free agency started on Sunday. He met with teams over the course of the week. Like, you know, role players in the league are going to have to wait for stars. That's how this league is built on, and you understand the frustration. But it feels like there's a decision here coming, whether it's today or tomorrow. At this point, it's hard to imagine it lingers much longer.
And like you said, it's not like he's picking a his ties or his socks. It's a big decision, right? Like, so he could take his time.
Life-altering, career-altering. Danny Green averaged a little better than 10 points a game. Depending on the fit, that number could go way up, as could the bank account. Adrian Wojnarowski with the insight on SportsCenter.
Look at this. Giannis Antetokounmpo, my friend. So you win NBA MVP. You also cut that view after that. I swear to you, it does happen, Randy.
That's amazing.
They were practicing it. I'm assuming it's in Greece, where he's from, right?
Not Milwaukee. That's not Milwaukee.
That's not Milwaukee.
No.
Okay. Waterview in Milwaukee, too, though.
What happens is...
And R.J. Barrett expected to make his Knicks debut. Selected 3rd overall, the highest drafted player by the Knicks since they took Patrick Ewing 1st overall in 1985. And Barrett will go against former Duke teammate Zion Williamson, expected to make his Pelicans debut this past season. Those two became the first freshman teammates in D1 history to both average 20 points per game. All right, speaking of Zion and speaking of the Pelicans, we have our NBA front office insider Bobby Marks back with us this morning. We've sort of slept a little bit on the Pelicans as this Kawhi watch has sort of consumed all of the NBA. But David Griffin deserves a fair amount of credit for overhauling a roster that at one time had Anthony Davis, and now you got to replace the face of the franchise. What stands out to you about the job that Griffin has done?
Well, it's unbelievable. And this is your roster that ended the season right now. This is your 33-49 team. What did Alvin Gentry call them? A dumpster fire, I believe?
Yes.
And this is what David Griffin's been able to do here. He's been able to basically transform this roster. And there's 4 different events here. Certainly the night of the lottery, Zion Williamson. Certainly the Anthony Davis trade when we look at Brandon Ingram. And we don't even have Lonzo Ball starting right now. Lonzo Ball. The night of the draft when you're able to get players like Jackson Hayes, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and certainly in free agency. We start with J.J. Redick, and then they made the trade to add Derek Favors here. And this roster is a deep roster here, and you can do a lot of different things here. You could put Ball in with Holiday. They still have Darius Miller, who they signed. We mentioned Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So this team is deep. It's amazing. He's basically flipped over this whole team.
He's had to. I mean, like you say, when Anthony Davis, when that talent and that contract comes off the books, yeah, maybe it provides a little bit of flexibility. In that comes a challenge. You've been on record as saying the Warriors are not a playoff team next season. How do you feel about the Pelicans?
Oh, I think they're going to compete for a playoff spot. I look how the Western Conference is. There's the 5 teams up top, teams like Denver, Utah, Houston, Portland, the Lakers. And then there's kind of everybody else in that 6 to 12 range. And New Orleans is right in there with Sacramento, Golden State, San Antonio, the Clippers. This team is deep. The big thing is that they got to stay healthy. I think the health of Lonzo Ball and the health of Brandon Ingram could dictate if this team's playing in April or they're getting ready for another lottery pick.
The month of March is going to be fascinating in the Western Conference. Meanwhile, the Pelicans have made it to the playoffs once in the last 4 seasons.
Answer on where Kawhi is going to be by the time we have that World Cup final. But who knows? We're all waiting for Kawhi, and supposedly the last meeting, right, that Kawhi was going to take was going to be with Toronto. This is video of what we believe to be Kawhi landing in Toronto. We've got the helicopter footage, and fans got all presumptuous, and now they're outside of a hotel and they're waiting and they're stalking and they've got their phone out. Everyone awaiting the impending decision. Will Kawhi stay in Toronto or take his services elsewhere? It's almost as if the folks in Toronto didn't listen to the mayor when he was like, don't be thirsty when it comes to Kawhi. Just like pump the brakes and let the man be. NBA insider Brian Windhorst is joining us now. Wendy, can you kind of handicap the race for Kawhi right now at this moment?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that's becoming clear, if in a situation where there's very few clear things, is the Toronto Raptors are a certainty for Kawhi. He knows exactly what they're going to be. When he goes and re-signs there, it's a championship team. He knows who all his teammates are going to be. They can fall right back into it. They will be the title favorite. Probably the most interesting piece of information I have heard about this whole process, and there hasn't been much, is that Kawhi reached out to Kevin Durant before he committed to going to Brooklyn. And the only place that could have been to team up would have been the Clippers, because the Lakers wouldn't have had the space, and the Raptors wouldn't have had the space, and even in a sign and trade, I don't think KD was going to go to Toronto. So I think what he's looking at is he has some uncertainty. He doesn't know how the Lakers can build and how they can mesh together. He doesn't know if the Clippers would be able to use their assets to trade for a second star that would compete in today's NBA. And he does know what the Raptors have. And I think that's what he is coming to terms with as he goes through this process, which is looking to be completing with a meeting with the Raptors today.
For the sake of conjecture, because that's essentially where we're at right now, let's say he does sign a deal with the Raptors, a short-term deal, if you will. How would that potentially impact his future with any LA team?
Yeah, so I would say that if he does indeed decide to return to the Raptors, that's a step in the process today. And their entire team is essentially only signed through next season. It would potentially make a lot of sense to go short, as you mentioned. And then he could see what happened with the Clippers and the Lakers over the next year. The salary cap is expected to jump again, and both teams, depending on how they format their maneuvers, could potentially have the space to go back. And he could have a completely different analysis a year from now. I know that would make Lakers and Clippers fans pull their hair out, but that is an option for him to go to here. The safety choice is the Raptors, and that's what he's looking square in the eye today. But I would not overreact to him having this meeting. I would not make any assumptions that just because he's in Toronto to sign. He's
allegedly in Toronto, or at least someone with some braids and a nice caravan of SUVs is in Toronto with a plane.
That's how I arrive in Toronto all the time. I don't know about you.
100%. That looked like Pearson to me, so I don't know. Brian Windhorst joining us to break down what we assume is Kawhi in Toronto meeting with the Raptors.